The first time I realized my sister's tears were a weapon, I was 7 years old. She was 9. We were arguing over the last chocolate chip cookie, the big one, the one with the extra chips that our mother always hid on the highest shelf. I had climbed onto the counter to reach it, because I was small and agile and not afraid of heights. Lily had watched me do it, her arms crossed, her mouth pressed into that thin line that I would later learn meant she was calculating. When I jumped down with the cookie in my hand, she didn't scream. She didn't grab for it. She just looked at me with wide, wounded eyes, and then she started to cry. Not loud, messy sobs. These were perfect tears, the kind that welled up slowly, trembling on the edge of her lower lashes before falling one by one down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. She let them fall, her chin quivering just slightly, her whole body radiating the quiet tragedy of a girl who had been deeply wronged. Our mother walked in 30 seconds later. Lily had timed it perfectly. "What did you do to your sister?" Mom demanded, seeing the tears, seeing the cookie in my hand, connecting dots that weren't actually connected. "She took the last cookie," Lily whispered, her voice cracking on the last word. "I was going to save it for you, Mommy, for after work. But she just took it." I stood there, cookie in hand, mouth open. I hadn't even taken a bite yet. But the look on my mother's face told me everything I needed to know. The tears had already won. I gave up the cookie. I apologized. And Lily stopped crying the moment Mom's back was turned, her face snapping back to neutral like a mask being removed. She took a bite of the cookie, the one she had supposedly been saving, and smiled at me. "Thanks, sis," she said. "That was 14 years ago. And nothing has changed. My name is Maya Chen. I'm 23 years old. And my older sister, Lily, has spent our entire lives perfecting the art of fake crying. She's good at it. I'll give her that. When Lily cries, you believe her. Her face crumples in exactly the right way. Her voice breaks on the perfect syllables. She knows how to angle her body toward the nearest sympathetic audience, how to let her shoulders shake without overdoing it, how to produce those glossy tears on command. She's like a master violinist, except her instrument is human emotion, and she plays it like a weapon. People love Lily. They always have. She's beautiful in that approachable way, big blue eyes, honey brown hair that falls in effortless waves, a smile that makes strangers want to tell her their problems. She's the kind of person who lights up a room just by walking into it. Teachers adored her. Bosses promoted her. Friends confided in her. And me? I was just the younger sister who lived in her shadow, always a step behind, always the one who somehow ended up looking like the bad guy. For years I told myself it wasn't her fault. She couldn't help being more likable. She couldn't help that people naturally took her side. But somewhere around middle school I started noticing the pattern. Whenever Lily wanted something, attention, sympathy, a different outcome, the tears would appear. Always at the right moment. Always in front of the right people. And always with me cast as the villain. The necklace incident was bad, but it wasn't the first. Let me back up. By the time we were teenagers, I had learned to document everything. Not because I was paranoid, but because I had been burned too many times. I kept a notebook hidden in my closet where I wrote down every incident. The date, the time, what Lily had said, what I had said, who was watching. It seemed excessive at first. Then, when I was 15, it saved me. Lily had been dating a boy named Connor for about 3 months. He was sweet, if a little dense, with a shock of red hair and a laugh that sounded like a barking seal. I didn't think much of him one way or the other until the day he cornered me in the hallway after school. You need to back off, he said, his freckled face flushed with anger. Back off from what? Lily. She told me what you've been doing. The texts, the comments, the way you've been trying to sabotage her. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. It was a text conversation, supposedly between me and an unknown number, where I called Lily a manipulative bitch and said I was going to make her life miserable. Except I had never sent those texts. The number wasn't mine. The language didn't even sound like me. I've never used the word bitch in my life. Not seriously. Lily showed me this, Connor said, misreading my shock as guilt. She's been crying for days. She's scared to be alone in the same room with you. I looked past Connor's shoulder and saw her. Lily stood at the end of the hallway, talking to a group of girls, her face open and laughing. Not a trace of tears. Not a trace of fear. She caught my eye and held my gaze for a long, deliberate moment. Then she turned away, still smiling. That night, I pulled out my notebook and added a new entry. I also started saving my own text logs, screenshotting every conversation, backing everything up to a cloud drive she didn't know existed. I was 15. I shouldn't have had to build a case against my own sister. The necklace incident happened the next year. Nana's opal pendant. The one she gave me on her deathbed, her fingers trembling as she pressed it into my palm. For you, Maya, she had whispered, her voice like dry leaves. Because you came. Because you stayed. Lily had been at a swim meet that weekend. She had chosen sports over sitting by a dying woman's bedside. Nana had noticed. Nana had always noticed everything. The pendant was beautiful, a milky white opal set in tarnished silver. The chain delicate as a spider's web. Nana had worn it every day for as long as I could remember. It smelled like her, like lavender and old books and the faint sweetness of the hard candies she always kept in her pocket. When I wore it, I felt like she was still with me. Lily wanted it. Of course she did. She had never been close to Nana, had barely visited even before she got sick, but the moment that pendant was mine, she acted like it had been stolen from her. She brought it up constantly. It's not fair, she would say at dinner, her voice dripping with wounded entitlement. I was her granddaughter too. Why does Maya get everything? My parents tried to be neutral, but I could see them wavering. Nana's decision had been clear, but Lily's tears were persuasive. There were so many conversations about sharing and family heirlooms belonging to everyone. I held firm. The pendant was mine. Nana had chosen me. Lily never forgave me for that. The day it happened, I was 17. A junior in high school, finally finding my own footing, my own friends, my own identity outside of being Lily Chen's younger sister. I had joined the debate team, discovered that I was good at arguing, good at finding the holes in other people's logic. I had a small but fierce group of friends who didn't know Lily, didn't care about her, saw me as Maya instead of Lily's sister. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was becoming my own person. Lily noticed, and she didn't like it. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were the only day we had lunch together. Our schedules overlapped for 30 minutes in the cafeteria. I usually sat with my friends at a table by the windows. Lily sat with the popular crowd, the beautiful people, the ones who laughed too loud and never seemed to do their own homework. That Tuesday, I wore the opal pendant. I don't know why. I just woke up and wanted it around my neck, wanted Nana's memory close to my heart. I didn't think anything of it. I put it on, threw on my favorite hoodie, and went to school. Lily spotted it immediately. I saw her eyes lock onto the pendant from across the cafeteria, saw the way her expression flickered surprise, then something colder, then nothing at all. She smiled at me, which should have been my first warning. Lily never smiled at me in public. "Love your necklace," she called out, loud enough for her table to hear. "Is that Nana's?" "Yeah," I said, already wary. "It looks beautiful on you." Her voice was warm, genuine. The girl next to her nodded approvingly. I felt myself relax just a little. Maybe she was finally over it. Maybe we could just. Then Lily's face changed. It was subtle at first. A slight downturn of her lips. A softening around her eyes. She looked down at her tray, then back up at me, and I saw it. The shimmer of moisture building along her lower lash line. "Are you okay?" one of her friends asked. Lily shook her head. A tiny, almost imperceptible movement. "It's nothing. I'm fine." Her voice cracked on the word fine. A single tear escaped, trailing down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, as if she didn't want anyone to see. But everyone saw. "Maya, what did you do?" someone at Lily's table demanded. I opened my mouth to say I hadn't done anything, but Lily spoke first. "She didn't do anything wrong," Lily said, her voice wobbling. "It's just that necklace was supposed to be mine. Nana promised it to me before she got sick. But Maya hid it, and by the time I found out, Nana was too confused to remember what she'd said." Another tear. "I'm not angry. It's hard to see her wearing it. That's all." The cafeteria went silent. I felt every eye in the room turn to me, saw the judgment forming on their faces. "That's not true," I said. "Nana gave it to me on her deathbed. She was lucid. She knew exactly what she was doing." Lily flinched like I had slapped her. "Please don't yell at me, Maya." "Not here." "I'm not yelling." But my voice had risen. I could hear it, the sharp edge of desperation creeping in. I was 17. I didn't know how to fight this. I didn't know how to compete with perfect, glistening tears and a trembling voice in years of everyone believing that Lily Chan could do no wrong. "She's been like this for years," Lily said quietly, addressing her friends, not me. "Ever since we were kids. I don't know what I did to make her hate me so much." "I don't hate you," I shouted. And there it was. The trap. Because now I was the one shouting, the one losing control, the one who looked angry and unstable while Lily sat there crying silently, bravely, forgivingly. One of Lily's friends, a tall girl named Priya who had always been nice to me, stood up and put herself between us. "Maya, maybe you should go," she said, not unkindly but firmly. "Give Lily some space." I looked around the cafeteria. My own friends were staring at me with wide eyes, uncertain. People I didn't even know were whispering behind their hands. And Lily was being comforted by 3 different people, her head bowed, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. I grabbed my tray and walked out. I didn't run. I refused to give them that satisfaction. But my hands were shaking, and my face was hot, and I could feel the tears starting to build behind my own eyes. Real tears, frustrated and helpless and so tired. That night, I added a long entry to my notebook. Then I went online and bought a small voice recorder. I was done being the villain in my sister's stories. The years that followed were a war of attrition. Lily went to college across the country, Stanford, because of course she did, and I thought the distance might finally give me peace. It didn't. She called our parents every night, her voice always just slightly wounded, always hinting at how difficult I made things, how she wished we could be closer, how she didn't understand why I was so cold to her. Every holiday break, every family gathering, every birthday dinner the tears would come. Some small slight, some imagined cruelty, and Lily would cry, and my parents would look at me with disappointment, and I would retreat to my room and add another entry to my notebook. I started recording our conversations. Every single one. I had hours of audio where Lily spoke to me normally, laughed with me, even hugged me, and then minutes later, cried to our mother about how I had been emotionally abusive all day. I had video of her face snapping from tearful to neutral the moment she thought no one was watching. I had screenshots of texts she sent to family members, twisting my words, painting me as a monster. By the time I was 20, I had a folder on my laptop labeled Evidence. It was 2 gigabytes of proof that my sister was a liar. And I had never used any of it. Because here's the thing about people like Lily. They don't just lie. They build entire realities around their lies. They convince everyone, maybe even themselves, that their version of events is the truth. And if you try to expose them, you don't look like a truth teller. You look like a bitter, obsessive, jealous sibling who has been collecting dirt for years. I knew that if I ever played those recordings for my family, they wouldn't hear proof. They would hear obsession. They would hear a sister so consumed with hatred that she had been secretly recording her own flesh and blood. They would hear what Lily had trained them to hear. Maya the unstable one. Maya the angry one. Maya who just couldn't let things go. So I stayed quiet. I kept my evidence. And I waited. The breaking point came last month. I was 23, working as a paralegal, living in a small apartment of my own 2 states away from my family. I had built a life that didn't include Lily. Limited contact, holiday visits kept short, phone conversations deflected with excuses. It wasn't perfect, but it was manageable. I had friends who knew the real story, a therapist who believed me, a cat who didn't care about family drama. Then my mother called to say she was sick. Not dying, thank God, but sick enough. A breast cancer diagnosis, early stage, good prognosis, but still sick. She was going to need chemo. She was going to need help. And she wanted both her daughters to come home. I drove 8 hours without stopping. I arrived at my parents' house at 2 in the morning, exhausted and wired, and found Lily already there. She had flown in from San Francisco, first class, her designer luggage arranged neatly in the guest room she had claimed as her own. "Hey, stranger," she said when I walked in. She was sitting at the kitchen table drinking tea, looking like she had never caused me a moment's pain. "Long time no see." We hugged. Because that's what we did, what we had always done. Performed normalcy for an audience of our sleeping parents. Her arms around me felt like a trap closing. "How is she?" I asked. "Sleeping. The oncologist is optimistic." Lily set down her mug and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I'm glad you came, Maya." "Really?" For a moment I almost believed her. The first week was tense but bearable. We took shifts driving Mom to appointments, sat with her during chemo, made sure she ate and drank and took her medications. Lily was efficient and organized, creating spreadsheets of medications and color-coded calendars of appointments. I was the one who sat with Mom during the rough hours, holding her hand while the drugs dripped into her veins, telling stupid jokes to make her smile. We didn't fight. We barely spoke to each other unless necessary. It was a ceasefire, fragile but holding. Then Dad went out of town for a business meeting. He couldn't miss it, he said. Not with Mom's medical bills piling up and the ceasefire shattered. It was a Tuesday. Always a Tuesday with us. Mom was resting after a particularly brutal round of chemo, her face pale and drawn, a bucket by her bedside just in case. Lily and I were in the kitchen making dinner, or rather I was making dinner, and Lily was sitting at the counter watching me, her phone in her hand. "You've been recording me," she said. I froze, a wooden spoon halfway to my mouth. "What?" "Don't play dumb." Her voice was light, almost conversational. "I found your folder. The evidence folder. While you were at the pharmacy yesterday." My heart dropped into my stomach. I had brought my laptop with me, of course I had. I never went anywhere without it, and I had been stupid enough to leave it in the guest room while I ran errands. The guest room that Lily was staying in. "You went through my computer," I said slowly. "I went through the guest room looking for a phone charger, and your laptop was open." She shrugged, unapologetic. "You really should use a better password. N0 na 2020 foot? Too easy." I set down the spoon. My hands were shaking. "You had no right." "Maybe not." Lily stood up and walked toward me, her bare feet silent on the tile floor. "But here's the thing, Maya. I don't care about your little recordings. I don't care about your notebook or your screenshots or your pathetic attempts to prove that I'm the bad guy." She stopped inches from my face, close enough that I could see the tiny mole beside her left eye. "Because no one will ever believe you." "That's not true," I said, but my voice came out weak. "Oh, it's true." She smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. "Think about it. You've been collecting evidence against me for 8 years. 8 years. You've spent almost a decade obsessing over your own sister. Do you know how crazy that sounds? Do you know how easy it would be for me to spin that?" I said nothing, because she was right. When Mom and Dad hear about this, and they will hear about it, they're not going to think, "Oh, poor Maya. She was just protecting herself." They're going to think, "Our daughter has been secretly recording family conversations for years. What else is she capable of?" Lily tilted her head, feigning concern. "You've played right into my hands, little sister. You always do." "You're a monster," I whispered. "No." She reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture so maternal it made my skin crawl. "I'm just better at this than you are. There's a difference." She went back to the counter and picked up her phone. I stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by half-chopped vegetables and the smell of garlic, feeling the walls close in around me. That night, I did something I had never done before. I called my best friend, Chloe, and I told her everything. Not the sanitized version I usually gave the Lily and I don't get along version. I told her about the recordings, the notebook, the years of gaslighting, the trap Lily had just laid. Chloe listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Send me the files." "What?" "Send me the evidence. Back it up to my cloud drive. If she tries to destroy your copies, I'll have them." There was steel in her voice, a fierceness I had never heard before. "You're not crazy, Maya. I've known you for 6 years. I've seen how you are around your family. And I've seen how they look at you like they're waiting for you to explode. That's not normal. That's not your fault." I cried. Real tears, messy and ugly and long overdue. And then I backed up everything to Chloe's drive, erased the folder from my laptop and went to bed. The next morning the war began. Lily told my parents about the recordings over breakfast. Not with anger that would have been too obvious. With sadness. With disappointment. With those perfect, glistening tears that she could summon like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat. I didn't want to say anything. she said, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. I thought maybe Maya would come to me herself. But she didn't, and I can't keep pretending everything is fine. She's been recording our conversations for years. Years, Mom. Every time we talked, every holiday, every private moment. She has files and files of my voice, and I don't even know what she's doing with them. My mother stared at me, her face pale beneath her chemo-thinned hair. Maya? Is this true? I took a breath. I had prepared for this. I had rehearsed it in my head 1,000 times. Yes, I said. I recorded her. Because she's been lying about me for years, and I needed proof. Proof of what? My father demanded. Proof that she's a liar. I turned to Lily, who was crying quietly into her napkin. Tell them about the necklace. Tell them what really happened. Lily looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. I don't know what you're talking about. The cafeteria. Junior year. You told everyone I stole Nana's pendant from you. You said Nana had promised it to you before she got sick. My voice was steady. I had practiced this. That was a lie. Nana gave it to me on her deathbed. She was lucid. She asked for you and you weren't there. You were at a swim meet. Lily's face crumbled. That's not, I don't remember it that way. Of course you don't. Because your version of events is the one where you're the victim. But that's not what happened. I looked at my parents. I have recordings of her admitting to lying. I have recordings of her laughing about how gullible everyone is. I have 8 years of evidence that my sister has been systematically destroying my reputation because I wouldn't give her a necklace. The room was silent. My mother was crying now, but not Lily's performative tears, real exhausted, overwhelmed tears. My father looked like someone had punched him in the chest. Play them, my father said quietly. Lily's head snapped up. What? The recordings. Play them. I hesitated. This was the moment I had feared for years. The moment when I would look like the obsessive one, the crazy one, the sister who couldn't let go. But Chloe's voice echoed in my head. You're not crazy. I pulled out my phone, connected to Chloe's cloud drive, and pressed play. The first recording was from 3 years ago. Lily and I were on a family vacation sharing a hotel room. You could hear the ocean in the background, the distant sound of seagulls. Lily's voice was clear, unguarded. You know why I do it, right? Because it works. Every single time. Mom and Dad would rather believe I'm the victim than admit that I might be the problem. It's easier for them. I'm just giving them what they want. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. I played another. This one was from Lily's birthday dinner last year. She had been crying to our aunt about how I had forgotten her gift. A lie. I had given her a gift card to her favorite spa. But on the recording, you could hear her voice shift the moment she thought no one was listening. God, she's so easy to manipulate. All I have to do is cry, and everyone falls over themselves to comfort me. It's pathetic, really. But as long as it works, why stop? Another recording. And another. Each one a small death of the person I had always thought my sister was. When the last recording finished, no one spoke. Lily had stopped crying. Her face was blank, unreadable. The mask of a performer who had just realized the audience was walking out. You recorded me without my consent, she said finally. That's illegal in some states. Does that matter to you? I asked. The legality of it? Or does the fact that you said those things matter more? Lily stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor, loud in the silence. She looked at our parents, at their devastated faces, at the way they wouldn't quite meet her eyes. "You're choosing her," Lily said, her voice cold. "After everything I've done for this family, after everything I've sacrificed, you're choosing the one who spied on me." "We're choosing the truth," my mother whispered. Lily laughed. It was an ugly sound, bitter and hollow. "The truth." "Right." She grabbed her purse from the counter. "I'm leaving. Don't call me." She walked out the front door. The click of the latch was soft, but it echoed through the house like a gunshot. I sat down at the table, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. My father reached across and took my hand. My mother was still crying, but she was also looking at me, really looking at me for the first time in years. "I'm sorry," my mother said. "I'm so sorry, Maya. I should have seen it. I should have." "It's okay," I said. And somehow, impossibly, it was. Lily didn't come back. She sent a few angry texts, a couple of long voicemails that I deleted without listening to, and then silence. My parents tried to reach her, but she blocked their numbers. She was gone, and the house felt lighter without her. My mother finished her chemo in the spring. The cancer went into remission. We celebrated with a small dinner, just the three of us plus Chloe, who had become a permanent fixture in our family by then. My father grilled steaks. My mother made her famous apple pie. I wore Nana's opal pendant and no one cried. Except at the end of the night, when my mother hugged me goodbye and whispered, "I'm proud of you." And I felt something in my chest crack open. I cried, then real ugly healing tears, and my mother held me, and my father patted my back and Chloe squeezed my hand. I don't know where Lily is now. I don't know if she's okay, or if she's found new people to manipulate, new audiences for her performances. Part of me hopes she's getting help. Another part of me doesn't care. I've spent too many years caring about someone who never cared about me. The last thing I heard about her was a text from a mutual friend. "She's telling everyone you fabricated the recordings, that you used AI to fake her voice. Some people believe her. Most don't. That's the thing about people like Lily. They never stop performing. The show must go on, even when the theater is empty. But I'm not in the audience anymore. I've left my seat, walked out of the dark and into the sunlight. And for the first time in my life, I'm not waiting for the next act. The story of my sister and me, the real story, is over. And I won." The opal pendant catches the light as I write this, sitting on my new patio, in my new city with my cat asleep in my lap. My mother calls every Sunday. My father sends me dad jokes and text messages. Chloe is coming to visit next month. Lily's name comes up sometimes, in the careful way people mention a wound that's mostly healed. I don't flinch anymore. I don't feel that old twist of fear in my stomach. She's just a person I used to know, a sister I used to have, a ghost that doesn't haunt me. The evidence folder is still on Chloe's drive. I haven't looked at it in months. I don't need to. I know what happened. I know who I am. And no amount of fake tears can change that. If you're reading this and recognizing your own story, if you have a Lily in your life, someone who uses tears as weapons and sympathy as currency, I want you to know something. You are not crazy. You are not the villain. The recordings, the notes, the careful documentation, that's not obsession. That's survival. One day the performance will end, and you will still be standing. So will I.